Journalism is a social product. It's a product of its time and its place. The workforce unionised, sought to recognise itself as having a certain role in society, and then began to develop a series of codes of ethics and so on, became professionalised, and as an organised workforce took control of a certain part of the labour market, elaborated the codes, etc. So in this context, at best, climate change stories get treated as crisis, you know, in the science pages or somewhere else, or they get treated as the political football being booted backwards and forwards in the parliaments, or just business as usual in terms of the lobbying of big business, the unions, the green groups, etc., etc. At worst, as the paper that my colleague Phil Chubb presented yesterday, greenies and environmentalists, climate scientists, etc., in the News Limited press are treated with derision.
The basic idea of the conference is to raise awareness about climate change and the global repercussions of climate change. And in order to understand these global repercussions, we have to talk about climate change from many different perspectives, especially many different cultural perspectives. So we have to take into account different cultural values all around the world. So it's for this reason that climate change at this conference is being discussed from the perspective of different values which are shared by different cultures around the world.
The conference should be seen in a larger context of the Global Dialogue project and the importance of global dialogue and intercultural value studies in relation to global challenges. Then climate change is one of these global challenges, and the value of taking in ideas about values and different cultures and see how they interact and how they perceive these things could be said briefly to be that behind all the technological things, which are also very important, and the politicians and the business, then the ones who have to implement these things in practice is actually the populations. So it's very important that you, in a way, connect with the populations.
This is an issue of morality, and it is also a big question, or a vital question, as far as dialogue about values is concerned, because we have to be able to reach a kind of common ground in order to solve that problem on an equitable basis, in a way that no one nation and no one community feels that it has to pay the price for the convenience of others.
The bag of the Prime Minister says moon landing because they have promised that they will fix the oil industry, clean it up, clean the emissions away and everything. They'll find the technology for that, and that's called moon landing. And Stadtfuel, that is one large oil field that we have.
Journalistic output you will get during these summits will be the quotes that you have on a list when you're present at the conference. For instance, the numbers of 2007, it was often posted in the paper that we studied that disclosed those figures of how high were the emissions in Norway. And they had interviewed oil companies, trade, NGO, and it must have, the byline was from Bali, Indonesia. But it's quite obvious that those numbers were compiled months before. Those interviews were made months before. And I think that when we come to Copenhagen, we will see some of the best elements of journalism will not be journalism made in the huzz and buzz of the corridors and the boats and following that. That will be the journalism that is dropped down and they just take the quotes and so on. But the best journalism will be prepared in advance.
This headline means that the ecological friendly development is painting a picture of a harmonious society. Maybe when we talk about the three forces of journalism in environment reporting, sometimes we may feel that they are separated with one another. But let's get back to the journalist's point of view. Sometimes, in fact, most of the time, they actually work together. Other journalists started a climate change journalist club, so they often get together to exchange sources and to also story ideas about climate change issues. And I think if we see it that way, that is quite optimistic point of view of how we cover climate change.
Hopefully during the next 15 minutes people in this room will think about whether it relates to where you live. In Britain, I think that climate change of a serious climate change reporting of a serious, and by that I mean in-depth and consistent nature, is confined in the UK to the middle class press. In a media system so divided along class lines, great swathes of the British population are getting climate change light.
These aren't credit cards, so you can't go shopping tonight at August. It won't work. There's a few $2. And I'm going to give you one of these. Oh. And you get a loyalty card. All the news you need to know in the first 11 minutes, which I thought was stupid because I said go to bed after 11:01. Then we had another one, Channel 2 Action News. Channel 2 Action News was breaking news, breaking habits. So what does that mean? The rest of us journalists don't care? It's that all of us, we all have this competition. And viewers, we got there in local area gathering, and we're fighting for the certain people to come into our shop. We want you to do business with us. We are after certain news consumers. See, our media is not state-owned, it's not state-run. It's a business.